Hello friends, I am Shivaji Bhaskar, Faculty of Russian at the School of Foreign Languages, IGNOU. I welcome you all to this course Basics of Russian Communication Skills Part 1. As you are aware that in the previous modules we have discussed about various aspects of the Russian language and phonetics. We have discussed about the Russian alphabet, words combinations, verbs and certain other examples. Now, in the previous module, since we were discussing about the verbs of motion, now we will take you to the case system in Russian. As you are already aware that in Russian there are certain cases which defines and gives meaning to the sentences. The cases are like the iminitelny padyesh or predložny padyesh or datelny padyesh, etc. are very important in order to give meaning and expression to the communication. Now, in this module, we will be discussing about the case system. The case system, as they are called padyeji in Russian, we will be discussing and seeing with the help of a few examples that how and what kind of role do they play in the Russian language. So, the expressions like where and where to are often used through a case system which is known as the prepositional case. We use different prepositions like v and na, which actually means in, at and on, etc. to define the place of an action. Whereas by learning this, what do we understand is that we can give an expression to a sentence where we can define the exact place and place of action. That is why regarding the movement or the action, we discussed about the verbs of motion. Now, let's look at the basics of the Russian case system. As you already know that there are 6 cases in Russian language, and cases are an integral part of the Russian grammar. With the help of these cases, you can understand the meaning of expression of a sentence in a correct manner. So, now let's look at these 6 cases one by one. So, the first one is known as nominative case. In Russian, we call it iminitelny padyesh. Here, in this case, we talk about the subject of the sentence. The second one is prepositional case, as called in Russian predložny padyesh. In this case, which is used after these certain prepositions, like we already know, v and na, which can be defined as in, at or on. And then the third one is accusative case. It is known as vinitelny padyesh in Russian. Vinitelny padyesh is where the object of the sentence is determined. The fourth one is dative case. It is known as datelny padyesh. The indirect object of the sentence is determined in this case. Then we have genitive case, which is known as radichelny padyesh, which indicates ownership. If you remember, we have talked about time and counting, etc. We also cover in this case only. And then the last one is instrumental case or tvarichelny padyesh, where we indicate with or by means of, like skem, schem, like this, and many other expressions which are used in these 6 cases. So, now let's quickly repeat these 6 cases are. The first one is nominative case, then the second one is prepositional, the third one is accusative, the fourth one is dative, then the fifth one is genitive, and sixth is instrumental. In Russian, they are called iminitelny padyesh, predložny padyesh, vinitelny padyesh, datelny padyesh, radichelny padyesh and tvarichelny padyesh. So, these cases in the Russian grammar, they are very important, because as per the requirement of the sentence and the context, we use different kind of cases, and each and every case has a list of verbs which are being used in these particular cases as well. So, that is why the Russian language is very organized, very structured, very rich, because the language has been defined very accurately with the help of cases. So now let's go ahead and pay attention to some of the simple sentences which we can use to define what kind of role do these cases play in Russian grammar. So the first one is known as nominative case or imichelny padesh. It answers the question who or what. So we already know kto and shto, these two cases, where we actually seek that whether it is animate or inanimate. So kto, animate, and shto means inanimate. It is an initial form. All dictionaries give noun in the nominative only. So if you look at any Russian dictionary, you will find all the nouns in the nominative form. Then you will find the gender, some of the examples, and some of the expressions, but largely the meaning and the formation of these nouns are in this case only, which is known as nominative case. So now let's take a few examples. The first one is student читает. Что читает студент? And кто читает? Кто читает? Студент читает. Что читает? Читает книгу. So these kind of questions we can ask. However, depending upon the nature of the noun, we can define whether it is animate or inanimate. In this, it is a simple question. Кто это? Это студент. Alright, okay, now let's go ahead. Then we have the prepositional case, which is also known as предложный падеж. In this case, it is used to designate a place or a person, object, that is an object of speech and thought. How? Like мой брат живет в деревне. Где мой брат живет? So this question где is basically used to determine where. Где мой брат живет? Он живет в деревне, in the village. So in the village, it is basically a construction of prepositional case where we have used the preposition в. Likewise, мой брат идет на стадион. Or we can say где играет мой брат? Мой брат играет на стадионе. In this case, you can see the preposition na has been used. And likewise, there are numerous examples where we have used the nouns as per their genders in this particular case to define. Then, о ком говорит мой брат? О ком говорит? Мой брат говорит о друге. So in this case, you are talking about a person. So whenever we use a, it is also prepositional case. So now let's understand how this preposition case works with an example like Ana мечтает о лете. She dreams about the summer. Цветы стоят на столе. Где стоят? На столе. On the table. So the flowers are on the table. Leta changes into lete, ending o changes into ye, and stole ending changes into ye. These are the basics of the prepositional case. How do we change? Now let's go ahead and pay attention to the third one. It is known as accusative case or vinichilny padyesh. What do we do in vinichilny padyesh? In this case, it designates the object of an action. So, for example, if I have Я читаю что? Я читаю газету. So any noun of the feminine gender which ends with a changes into u. Я читаю что? Я читаю газету. But if it is Raman, then я читаю роман. There would be no change. But if it is animate and a masculine gender, then we have a construction. Я встретил Kavo means I met who? I met my friend. So in this case I am saying я встретил друга. If it is Anton, я встретил Антона, Ashoka, Ramesha, etc. So in this case the construction would be like this. Gazeta changes into gazetu, however drug changes into druga. So this is the basic fundamental of the accusative case. However, we need to remember all the important verbs like chitach, strechich, etc. in order to understand and construct the correct sentence of an accusative case. Okay. So now we will go ahead and pay attention to the fourth one, known as the fourth case is dative case or dachilni padyesh. What do we do in this case? In this case, it helps us in designate the something which is given or addressed to. So like if I am writing a letter, I am writing a letter to whom? So when we have these kind of questions, kamu, then we use dative case. Я иду к врачу. Я даю эту другу. So here in this case, if you see, we have used the gлагол or the verb of motion ichi. So I am going towards whom? I am going towards к врачу. К врачу. So I am going to the doctor. So whenever we use this expression of k, it is in dative case. Suppose if we want to say that I am writing letter to my friend. So ya pishu pismo kamu. So drug changes into drugu. If it is personal pronoun and possessive pronoun, maimu drugu. Ya idu ka maimu drugu. And if it is a feminine gender, then the ending would change. Ya idu ka sistre, like this. And if we have the word vrach, it changes into vrachu. If it is drug, it would change into drugu. So we will be discussing all the cases in detail in the dedicated module. However, before that, let's quickly see rest of the two cases more. So the fifth one is genitive case. The genitive case or Raji Chilni Padyesh is used to show that something or somebody belongs to or refer to something or somebody. What does it actually mean? It means to indicate possession of. It can be translated as of in English, like bereg riki, bereg chivo, bereg of what? Bank of what? Bank of river. And if you want to give an expression that of who, so brat, brata, brother of brother, and many other expressions which gives an expression of, so that we understand it properly. Now the next one is instrumental case, very important case as well, known as Twari Chilni Padyesh. It is used to denote an instrument that helps to make something. For example, ya pishu karandasham. So with the help of something you are doing, so it gives that expression. Ya pishu, I am writing or I write with a pencil. Karandasham. Karandash, pencil, changes into karandasham. And many other examples like ya idu damo is bratam. I am going to home with my brother. Ya idu damo is sistroi. I am going home with sister. So these kind of constructions you will also find in the instrumental case where we use sa, with. So please be ready for all the 6 cases which you will be learning in the detailed dedicated modules. However, just to prepare you in advance that these kind of questions you would see and you would be asking while using these cases, you have to be very clear about certain constructions and verbs which we normally use from case to case, and to that you need to learn all these verbs by heart. Okay, now let's go ahead and pay attention to the text as you know, why we are using the text in this module, because the text are very important aspect of language learning. As a methodological tool, text help us in enriching our knowledge as well as prepare us for the language acquisition and learning in an efficient manner. So that is why you might have seen many texts in almost all modules which we have used in the course. So that is why we always would like to recommend you to prepare your own small or big text with the help of the vocabulary, verbs, words, expressions, etc., which you are learning in this course. So please pay attention to the text. I'll start with Volgograd очень большой и красивый город. So Volgograd is the name of the place, Volgograd, which is known as Volgograd in Russian. Очень большой и красивый город. Очень большой, very big, и красивый город, and beautiful city. Этот город находится на юге России. Юге России. Мой друг Иван живет в Волгограде. Он студент. Раньше его родители жили в Москве, а сейчас они живут в этом городе. Его мама Инна Петровна преподавательница. Она работает в институте. Ее институт находится в центре города. Его папа Антон Николаевич врач. Он работает в больнице. Эта больница находится недалеко. Его старшая сестра Мария учится в университете. Она живет в общежитии. Сегодня воскресенье. Вся семья отдыхает. Мама, папа и младшая сестра идут в парк. Иван идет на стадион. Сегодня на стадионе играют футбольные команды Динамо и Спартак. So in this text, however, you have a slight idea about the tone and texture of the Russian language. Now we will go to the beginning of the text and pay attention to the words, verbs and combinations and expression which we have used in the text, so that you can understand it properly. So, Volgograd очень большой и красивый город. Volgograd is a very big and a beautiful city. So, as per the requirement of the noun, there is an agreement between the adjective ending as well as the noun. In this case, there is an agreement between this город, which is of masculine gender, and красивый and большой. Alright, so большой и красивый город. Какой город? Волгоград. Какой город Волгоград? Волгоград очень большой и красивый город. So these kind of questions you can ask while constructing your own text. Этот город находится на юге России. Этот город, какой город? Волгоград. Где находится Волгоград? Волгоград находится на юге России. Yug means south. Na yuge, on the south of Russia. So Volgograd is situated in south of Russia. Мой друг Иван живет в Волгограде. Мой друг живет где? Мой друг живет в Волгограде. Кто живет в Волгограде? Мой друг живет в Волгограде. Или Иван живет в Волгограде. Then он студент. Кто он? Он студент. Раньше его родители жили в Москве. Где жили родители? Раньше. Раньше родители жили в Москве. So here you can see in the prepositional case we have used Moskve and the conjugated form of rich in the past tense for ani, because родители is plural, parents. Раньше, earlier, his. So earlier his parents lived in Moscow. A сейчас они живут в этом городе. Каком городе? Волгограде. Его мама Инна Петровна преподавательница. So whose mother is a college teacher, professor, mother of Ivan. So его мама Инна Петровна преподавательница. Она работает в институте. Где она работает? Она работает в институте. Here you can see the construction which we have used is in prepositional case. Она работает в институте. So in place of institute, you can use университет. Она работает в институте, в университете. You can also replace institute, университет and replace it with школа. Она работает в школе. But преподавательница we normally find in college or in a university. So if you want to make a construction, она работает в школе, for example, then it has to be учительница. Его мама Инна Петровна, она учительница, она работает в школе. So like this, so that there is an exact meaning and the construction of a sentence is technically correct. Then ее институт находится в центре города. Ее институт находится, is situated in в центре города. В центре, right in the center of the city, Volgograd. Okay, now let's go ahead and pay attention to the next para. Его папа Антон Николаевич врач. So врач is a doctor. So Антон Николаевич работает врачом. Кем он работает? Он работает врачом. This is the instrumental construction. If you want to make further sentences based on the cases, then you can also find these kind of constructions. However, you will learn about it in detail in the dedicated modules. Он работает в больнице. Где работает папа Ивана? And his name is Anton Nikolaevich. Papa Ivana работает в больнице. So this is a construction of родительный падеж. Of father of Ivan. So Ivana. Отец Ивана Антон Николаевич работает в больнице. Кем он работает? Он работает врачом. So these kind of constructions. Then эта больница находится недалеко. Эта больница находится недалеко. Его старшая сестра Мария учится в университете. Then эта больница находится недалеко means this hospital is situated not very far. Недалеко. Его старшая сестра Мария учится в университете. And his elder sister Maria studies in the university. Она живет в общежитии. She lives in a hostel. Okay, now let's go ahead and pay attention to the last para of the text. Сегодня воскресенье. Сегодня воскресенье means today is Sunday. You can also change it with any other day of the week. Вся семья отдыхает. The entire family is taking rest. Мама, папа и младшая сестра идут в парк. Mother, father and younger sister are going to the park. Идут куда? Идут в парк. That is why the ending of park does not change because it is in the verbs of motion. А Иван идет на стадион. А куда идет Иван? Иван идет на стадион. Сегодня на стадионе играют футбольные команды Динамо и Спартак. So here in this case you can see that we have used the preposition на. Сегодня на стадионе. Today at the stadium, football teams Dinamo and Spartak are playing. So you can also make your own sentences like this. I hope the text is clear to you. Now we will pay attention to some of the words, verbs and word combination and expressions. Like nakhojitsa. This we already know means to be situated. Gije nakhojitsa vash dom. Moi dom nakhojitsa va deli. Va deli. However, we don't pronounce va deli, we pronounce deli, because it has been done so that you can understand when and where to use the preposition va. Nakhojitsa. Gije nakhojitsa nash universitet. Nash universitet nakhojitsa Yuge Delhi. Our university is situated in the south of Delhi. Ya nakhajus ti nakhojitsa ana nakhojitsa. So in this form you can conjugate the verb nakhojitsa. And further you can see mi nakhojimsa, vi nakhojiches, ani nakhojatsa. So it is in continuity. You can also see that how do we use these different aspects of the verbs, but in this case this is a very important verb nakhojitsa, which means to be situated. Okay, now let's go ahead and pay attention to that nakhojitsa is more often used in third person singular and plural number nakhojatsa. For example, muziei nakhojitsa v centre. Whereas echi fabriki nakhojatsa na vostoke deli. Vostok means east. East. So these factories are situated or located in the east of Delhi. So now let's pay attention to some of the verbs which we have used in this text. We have two verbs, rich and ichi. Rich we already know means to live, and ichi means to go. Now quickly see the conjugation of these two verbs. For rich, я живу, ты живешь, он, она живет, мы живем, вы живете, and они живут. Whereas in case of ichi, я иду, ты идешь, он, она идет, мы идем, вы идете, and они idut. So you can also use these conjugated forms as per the requirement of the sentence. For example, где живут ваши родители? Where your parents live? Where does your parents live? So you can see мои родители живут в Mumbai. My parents live in Mumbai. And likewise you can make many more sentences in the conjugated form. In case of ichi, you can also make sentences like Kuda ti Josh. Where are you going? Ya idu na stadion. I am going to the stadium. Ya idu auditorium. I am going to the auditorium. So these kind of constructions and sentences you can see, you can also make on your own. Now let's go ahead and pay attention to one concept which we have covered, that gije, which means where, denotes location, whereas the word kuda, which means where to, denotes destination. So this is the basic difference. However, we have already covered it in the previous module, which was dedicated to the glagoli dvijenya or the verbs of motion. So normally this kind of question you can be asked in the text like сейчас я в киоске. Where I am? I am at the kiosk right now. So сейчас я в киоске. Где? Куда? Я иду в киоск. Я иду в киоск. So this is the basic difference. Now let's go ahead and pay attention to some of the basic verbs which we used in gije or kuda. So in gije, when we need to ask the question where, in prepositional case, we can ask the question with the help of verbs like находится, жить, работать and играть. Где он играет? Он играет на стадионе. Like this. And где он работает? Он работает в школе. He works in the school. And где находится ваш город? Мой город находится в юге India. Yuge in the south of India. So like this you can make. And kuda, kuda ti josh, where are you going? Я иду в школу. I am going to the school. Kuda ty chodzisz? Where are you going? So in multiple direction, then you can answer it as you require. Я иду and я хожу в театр. В театр. Ехать you can also use like this, but the difference is that идти and ехать, they are in a particular direction. Ходить and ездить are in multiple direction. Okay, now let's go ahead and pay attention to some of the sentences. Где дети играют в парке? Где играют дети? В парке. Prepositional case. And for куда Iman идет в парк. So we have used the same noun park but in two different settings. The first one is in preposition, the second one is in глаголе движения. And then we have sentences. Мария живет в общежитии. Где живет Мария? Она живет в общежитии. Инна Петровна работает где? В институте. So these are the constructions which we are using in preposition. Whereas куда we can use Maria идет в общежитие. So общежитие remains like that. However, if we want to use in the form of a feminine gender, it can be Maria идет в библиотеку. Biblioteku, because it is in the verbs of motion. So that is why we have used the conjugated form of ichi kuda, and the feminine gender changes into u if it ends with a. If it is ya, for example auditoria, it would be Maria идет в auditoriu. Alright, so Inna Petrovna идет куда? Она идет в институт. Где она работает? Она работает в институте. Где Мария живет? Она живет в общежитии. So this is the basic difference. You can pay attention to how we have constructed these sentences based on the usage of где or куда. So I hope you have understood the basic meaning of the different cases of Russian. As these 6 cases, they give meaning to the construction of sentences and communication. That is why the usage of these different 6 cases are of utmost importance. However, there is a number of verbs and expressions which we oftenly use in a particular case. That is why identifying these verbs and expressions is not a very difficult task. You can note them down in your notebook in order to prepare yourself in advance for efficient communication in Russian, as well as you need to pay attention to the certain questions which we use in different cases, like you have seen кто and что in именительный падеж, whereas где and куда we use in the prepositional case and глаголе движения. You will also find many other such questions like кому, кого чего, с кем, с чем, and many other such expressions which actually defines with a very absolute clarity that this is basically of that particular case. So let's discuss that in the upcoming modules. I hope you enjoyed this particular module which was about the case system in Russian. Thank you.